Okay, so I'm here in the week 1 homework document, and we're going to kick off the class by looking at how to get some of the results that your homework and eventually your projects will require using Microsoft Excel. So the very last question for the first week is very similar to question 2.1.4 in your textbook. The data has been changed up just a little bit to keep things interesting, and it asks you to gather some information or to work with some information which has been gathered about what heating sources are used in Connecticut households. So basically they've sent out a survey to all Connecticut households or some Connecticut households and asked them, are you using gas, fuel, oil, electricity, or something else as a heating source? They gathered that information. They've organized it already for you in this little table here. This table shows the heating source type and the corresponding percentage. 16.3% are using electricity, and so on and so forth. And now what they'd like you to do is to take this data and create a bar chart and pie chart and then discuss any findings that you might see based on the graphs. So you can create the bar chart by hand. You can use an application to create the pie chart, but probably the easiest thing to do is to use Microsoft Excel to create both of those. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this data. I'm using Control-C, and then I'm going to pop over to Microsoft Excel and paste it at the very beginning here. So I'm assuming that you're already comfortable with the idea that Excel labels the information in columns with the letters A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth, and that the rows are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, and that a combination of those, a particular cell, might be labeled A1. For example, the word gas is in cell A4. You can see it up here in the corner. The percentage, 16.3%, that 16.30%, is in cell B2. So that's the terminology that I'm going to use when we're talking about what range of cells you should select. And in fact, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is select cells A1 and B1 and make those bold. I used Control-B, but you could also use the little B button here on the ribbon under the Home tab so that Excel knows that those are labels. Then we're going to select cells A2 through B5. Those are the labels: electricity, fuel, oil, gas, other, and the corresponding percentages. And then on the Insert tab of the ribbon, I'm going to drop down the column or bar chart option and choose a two-dimensional column chart, just the very first option. Now what that's done is it's placed the labels of my data across the bottom here, and then the frequency, or in this case the relative frequency, up the side, the percentages that correspond to each one. I might want to change the word chart title to instead reflect Connecticut heating source. And I might want to right-click the columns and maybe add data labels, and that'll put the percentages up there where they're a little easier to see. That's not necessary, it's just not a bad idea. If I were choosing next week to create a histogram, I would also be able to format the data series and then change how much of a gap is in between each one. Whoops, I've just done the wrong thing there. Let's put that back to where it came from. Put that back to 0 if I can. That's what I get for being excited here. And then reduce the gap width just a little bit and see what that does. Gap width, slide it even further down. Let's make it 50%. And they just get a little bit closer together. All right, so we've created a column chart. Let's move on to the next step. Let me make that a little bit smaller. The next thing I wanted to do was to create a pie chart. Again, this is super easy. In Excel, you just select the same range from A2 through B5, and on the Insert tab, we'll drop down the little label next to the pie chart and choose the very first option, a two-dimensional pie. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to resize that again. And there are a couple of different things I'd like to change here. First of all, again, this is fuel source, heating source. And I might want to add data labels. Or in fact, what I might want to do is go up here to the chart tools. Let's look at design. And they have some here that are already that already include labels. So you can kind of scroll around and see what options you've got here that you might like better. Or there, that's not bad. How's that? That's not bad. Choose one that has the percentages already on there. Or choose to right-click, add data labels. Let me go to those format data labels. And under the format data labels, I might want to include the category name. That way I don't need to have the little legend down here. And I might want to rotate this just a little bit if I can. Let's go with best position is fine. Close that. Let me right-click and format. Let me choose just one slice of pie. Let me choose this one. Right-click, format that data point, and I'm going to just move that around a little bit until those things fit a little bit better. Let me see, how does that look? Let me move it over where I can see. Let's move it a little bit more. Whoa. You can just keep moving things around until it looks like what you want it to look like. That's maybe right about there. That's not too bad. Now, does yours have to look like this? No, it doesn't. But I would like it to be moderately legible. That's not so bad. So we have the information here on the screen. That's what they've asked us to create. Then we can choose what to do with it. But I need you to turn it in, of course, in the Word document that was originally assigned. So we're going to go ahead and right-click and copy the information, the graph that we've just created. So let me copy that, and then back in Word, let me go down here to right above where I'm going to type in my answer. Let me paste in the pie chart and back to Excel, right-click and copy the column chart, and let's paste that one in as well. So now the answers are back in the answer document, which is the document you're going to submit. If you also would like to submit your Excel worksheet, of course you're welcome to do so. You have to type up down here at the bottom the findings that you see from the graph. You want to place your answers here. And then this is the document that you will either print out and submit along with all of your other answers, which will be in these other answer spaces. Print this out and hand this in class, or you can save it and submit it in the assignment folder online under the Week 1 homework.